Is the square root of the quantity x minus 3 squared equal to 3 minus x? So very important thing to remember for this question and other questions. The square root of a squared is not equal to a. The square root of a squared is equal to the absolute value of a. So never say this. This is what is true. And so we have this format here on the left side of our equation. It just happens to be that a is equal to x minus 3. So we can think of our question as asking, is the absolute value of x minus 3 equal to 3 minus x? So let's think about now. So what do we know about absolute value? The absolute value of anything, so the absolute value of y, we'll say now, because we're using up our variables quickly, has got to be greater than or equal to 0. You can't have a negative absolute value, because absolute value is really just distance from 0, and you can't have a negative distance. So this left side of our equation cannot be equal to a negative number. So we know 3 minus x must be greater than or equal to 0, which means x, so for this to be true, x must be less than or equal to 3. So remember, this is our question that we are talking about here, so we can think of, we can rephrase our entire question as, is x less than or equal to 3? So we can even if you want, before looking at our statements, test this out with some examples. So if x were equal to 4, the left side here would be negative 1, whereas the right side here would be equal to positive 1, so that wouldn't work. But if x were equal to 2, you'd have 2 minus 3, which is negative 1 squared, so you'd have 1 is equal to 1, and that does work. So is x less than or equal to 3 is our new question. And statement 1 says x is not equal to 3. Okay, but I still would need to know if x is less than 3. So it could still be, x could be 4 or it could be 2. So this is insufficient to answer my question. Statement 2 says negative x times the absolute value of x is greater than 0. So the only two ways I can get a product of two numbers that is greater than 0 is to have a positive times a positive, or a negative times a negative. Now we know a negative times a negative is not possible, because the absolute value of x cannot be negative. So this means we got this guy here. So negative x is positive, which really is telling us x is negative, or x is less than 0. So then we got to answer our question. Is x less than or equal to 3? Well, if x is less than 0, it's definitely going to be less than or equal to 3. So this second statement is actually sufficient. And B is the answer to our question.